In 2011, Angry Birds was a massive phenomenon, with multiple games, toys, and movies raking in hundreds of millions of dollars. However, by 2019, the company had begun laying off large numbers of employees, and things have continued to decline since then. Some believe it's a case of karma for copying the original idea. Angry Birds wasn't entirely innovative. In April 2009, a game called Crush the Castle was released, where players used a trebuchet to destroy a wooden structure holding evil characters. 8 months later, in December 2009, developer Rovio launched Angry Birds, which, although clearly inspired by Crush the Castle, improved on it in every way. It featured smoother, animated graphics, diverse stages, and levels, with players earning points for defeating enemies and conserving birds. The addition of 5 different birds, each with unique abilities, and a catchy soundtrack made it clear that Angry Birds had the upper hand. Before Angry Birds, Rovio had released 51 games, none of which had gained any major traction. When Angry Birds shot to the top, becoming the #1 paid app in 60 countries in just 2 months, they seized the opportunity to monetize the success. They launched various spin-offs like Angry Birds Seasons, Angry Birds Space, and Angry Birds Star Wars, all of which contributed to Angry Birds becoming the top paid app on the App Store, with 6 to 7 million paid downloads by the end of the first year. By then, they had made $1 million in revenue. Fans eagerly wanted more, and in response, Rovio began selling plush toys. Within weeks, 60,000 Angry Birds plush toys sold out, and the game became the best-selling paid app of all time. Rovio introduced microtransactions like the Mighty Eagle, which allowed players to clear levels quickly, and even celebrities like Justin Bieber supported the game. By 2011, Angry Birds generated $100 million, and Rovio expanded from 28 to 224 employees by the end of the year. They also set a record as the first mobile game series to reach 1 billion downloads. By 2012, their revenue had doubled again. However, by 2013, the game began to lose its charm. Despite releasing numerous variations, the game's formula hadn't evolved in over 3 years, leading to a decline in popularity. Profits plummeted, and Angry Birds dropped to 59th on the App Store. Rovio responded by experimenting with new formats like Angry Birds Go, a kart racing game that, despite being compared to Mario Kart, was well received. Professional reviewers rated it 7.7, and Reddit users hailed it as the best Angry Birds game. Rovio then introduced Angry Birds Epic, an RPG that also received positive reviews. However, these new formats didn't translate into merchandise sales like the original Slingshot-style game, leading to a drop in overall revenue. By the end of 2014, profits fell by 73% to $10 million, and Rovio laid off 10% of its workforce. In 2015, Rovio tried Angry Birds Pop, which turned out to be a failure, with many players ranking it as the worst Angry Birds game. The company went back to basics with Angry Birds 2, the official sequel. However, the sequel was criticized for being a downgrade, filled with microtransactions that irritated players. Many fans complained that the game was designed to make things difficult unless players spent money. Despite these criticisms, Angry Birds 2 became the highest-earning game for the franchise, although Rovio still reported losses of $15 million and laid off another third of their staff. Rovio surprised everyone with the Angry Birds movie, a $73 million project that turned out to be a success, grossing over $350 million. This helped revive the franchise, with players revisiting older games and new Angry Birds theme parks opening worldwide. In 2016, Rovio had its best year, but the quality of its gaming releases continued to decline. Games like Angry Birds Action, which used new designs from the movie, were widely seen as the start of the franchise's downfall. Other titles like Angry Birds Fight, a Candy Crush knockoff, and Angry Birds Match, deemed boring, didn't help. Despite these issues, Rovio's older games remained popular, with Angry Birds 2 seeing a 47% revenue increase in 2018, even though it was over 3 years old. This success funded a sequel to The Angry Birds Movie. Unfortunately, The Angry Birds Movie 2 didn't perform as well as the first, with critics calling it inferior. Nevertheless, it made a profit of $82 million, but Rovio still faced challenges. They stopped updating older games and began removing them from the App Store, including the original Angry Birds. Fans were outraged, with many expressing disappointment at the company's decisions. Rovio later explained that they were doing it to improve the quality of their updates but faced backlash for this move. In 2022, Rovio re-released Angry Birds Classic under a new name, Red's First Flight, charging $1.99 without in-game purchases. This change made it more difficult for fans to find the original game, leading to accusations that Rovio was pushing players to spend money on newer, less beloved titles. Rovio later confirmed that the change was made to benefit their wider game portfolio, further frustrating their fan base. By 2023, Rovio was sold as Sega, but this did little to restore its reputation. Some fans expressed sadness over the state of the franchise, although others continued to enjoy the older games. Despite everything, Angry Birds isn't entirely finished, as a third movie is in the works. However, with the franchise in decline, its future success remains uncertain.